everyone, my name is Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you so much for joining me on this Flosstube Friday for Flosstube number 35, I think it's 35. This was going to be a long one because I actually have quite a lot I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to have to postpone some of that until next week because we're in the middle of kind of a big thunderstorm that might have tornadic activity. So I'm going to try and keep this short so that I can talk to you and edit it and upload it before the really bad part hits. I'll keep you posted if there is a problem. But before we get to any of that, I want to welcome my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining me on my crafty and artistic adventures, and welcome back everyone who's been hanging out with me the past few months, weeks, days, however long you've been hanging out. It has been so incredibly wonderful to get to know you in the comments here on YouTube and also on Instagram. And if you are not following me on Instagram, you can find me at Dr._Christy. I'll put that right here. And that's where I post kind of my daily crafting and baking and life stuff and pictures of my dog who's adorable. So if you want to see what I'm doing during the week, you can check me out right here, Dr._Christy. This is a channel about embroidery and cross stitch and other textile crafts and baking and history the history of all of those things. So if any of that is interesting to you and you are not subscribed, I would love to have you subscribe and, stick around. Yeah, so I have a lot to talk about. I took off on Saturday. I hadn't had off for a day all of March. And I'm like, you know what? I'm taking off on Saturday. So I took off on Saturday and I got some things done. I checked some things off my list I've been talking about for weeks and I'm really excited. So I have an FFO for you. And my FFO is my Scandinavian deer pillow / cushion, depending on where you are. So what I did was I surrounded it with that cotton linen blend, that natural cotton linen blend. And then I just kind of made like a quilt block out of it basically. And then I top stitched it. And I top stitched it with, I don't know if you can see, but it's with a maroon color. So it kind of matches this. And then I just put a bigger piece on the back. And I have a cushion that is on my bed that I get to look at every day. So I am I keep flipping it around, sorry. I'm so excited that it's done. And I think it looks really nice. So I'm really pleased. So I'm going to toss that back over there. I have another FFO, a fully frogged object. I frogged out my bee honeycomb. I hated it. There were a couple things that I hated about it. I didn't like the shape. It wasn't an exact hexagon. Like no self-respecting bee would have made hexagons that shape. Like they were squished hexagons. And I didn't like the thickness that I did for the outline of the hexagons. And I didn't love the fill-in. So basically I liked nothing about this piece. So I frogged it. So I'm going to wait until the semester's over and I have time to really give myself time to plan it and draw it out nicely. And then I will do it again because I do like the idea. I do really want to play around with the honeycomb and the bee combo. And I think that'll be really cool. But for now, I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't like it. So that's going in the to be done later pile. But definitely, I'm keeping it in the project bag. I'm keeping it with all the flosses because I want to get that done by the end of April or May. I do have a new start. If you remember, I had problems with my red deer pattern. And this is what my red deer pattern is going to look like. But I had issues with the Ada that I talked about last week. I got cheap Ada from Michael's, which was different from the cheap Ada that I got from Joann's. And so I ended up going to Joann's this weekend and I bought new Ada. Basically the same Ada that I used for my Harpy and Dragon, I used for my restart of my Scandinavian deer. And this is what it looks like. It looks like an actual deer. So that's exciting. And I got a lot of this done today with my Stitchy meetup with Crafty Emily's group. And I am really pleased with it because, that looks like a deer to me, which is great. I love it. So I restarted that, got it pretty far, farther than my other one was. And I'm really pleased with it, and we'll see how it turns out. And then when this is done, you know, I'll release the pattern, and anyone else who wants to stitch it can stitch it. So that's my Scandinavian deer. I'm just zipping through these, I'm sorry, but I do have some whips in my book bag. I have my temperature library that I stitch with my mom on Sundays, and I am now in April, so that's really fun. And this is a temperature pattern that I designed, and if you're interested in stitching it, you can find it on my Etsy shop, which is linked down below. I have an embroidery version and I have a cross stitch version. And I'm doing the embroidery version, and basically I'm using it as an opportunity to practice my satin stitches, because my satin stitches are a little bit wonky, and I figure if I have to do 365 tiny little objects, maybe it'll get better. It worked with my French knots when I did a Liechtenstein reproduction, so, you know. This is being stitched on a linen yardage that I got from fabricsstore.com, and it's being stitched with the DMC that's in the pattern. So that's what this is. Basically, I stitch the week's books every Sunday with my mom, and I'm not really worrying about the outside because I'll have time to work on that later. Like this is a full year project that I can work on at any point. So that is coming along swimmingly, and it's in a bag that I love. There's a hashtag for the temperature pattern stitching, not just this one, but if you're stitching any temperature pattern, Pam from Stitching the Land of Good Enough is sort of hosting a hashtag, and it is Stitch the Temp Sal. I'll put that right here. So if you're on Instagram, just hit hashtag Stitch the Temp Sal, and I know that I'm following that hashtag, and I would love to see your temperature stitching, whatever you're stitching, even if it's mine, if it's someone else's pattern. I think Pam is stitching the Temperature Tree by Stitchin' Mommy. So I want to see it all. I love seeing other people stitching. I have been like subscribing to everybody's stitching on Instagram. I'm so excited to see everyone stitching. So that's the hashtag for that. I'm also working on the Peppermint Purple 2021 Stitch Along. This is where I am. And I am 2 weeks behind. I'm always about 2 weeks behind. So I did these 4 blocks this week, and this is being stitched on a 14 count black Ita. The interior color is by Be Stitch Me, and it's called Happy, and the outside color is a fluorescent green by Dying for Cross Stitch. And these are both silks. Dying for Cross Stitch. It did not have a color, it did not have a name. It was part of like the Halloween color trio that she released back in October. But I love the ridiculousness of this color, of the color combo. It's just, it feels very like 80s to me, and I'm kind of digging it. That's my Peppermint Purple Stitch Along. And I think this is the next, I think it's these two next. I don't know, I'll have to look. But anyway, this is a free year-long stitch along, and you can find the patterns in the Facebook group. I'll put a link down below, or on her website. And there is a like rectangular version and a square version, and I'm doing the square version because I kind of liked it. So that's that. That's my Peppermint Purple Blackwork Stitch Along, and I'm really pleased. The final whip I've worked on this week is my Cosmic Egg by Hildegard of Bingen, and this is a reproduction of a medieval image that was created by a 12th century mystic named Hildegard of Bingen. And this is what it's going to look like. And if you are new and don't know about Hildegard of Bingen, I did do a video about her several months ago, and you can find that right here. And that should tell you about this piece and also about her and her life. This is what it's going to look like. And this is where I am. And I worked on the flames, but then I also decided that I wanted something different. So I started working on the border, that top border there. So that top border now is completely finished. Well, that half of the top border is completely finished. And that's probably about an eighth. 1/10 of the border. So I finished that and I'm really pleased. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I think I may have also, I'm not quite sure where I was before, but I'm really pleased with this border. I think it looks good. And here's a picture that I took of the border with like the picture right under it, so you can see like the difference and what it looks like. That's my Hildegard of Bingen, and I think I really need to start focusing on this piece because I want to get this done by the end of April. That's like my new goal. So you're going to be seeing this a lot in the next, well, I mean, you see it every week anyway, but I really want to get this done by the end of April, and I have quite a bit to do on it. So that is definitely something that I need to focus on because I have to start a second one for my friend that needs to be done by June. I'm gonna have to book that too. So I think that's all my whips for this week, but that's basically all the stuff I've been working on lately. So I think I did pretty well, and I got some really good stitching in. And I finished that pillow. I'm so happy that I finished that pillow. I had wanted to do other sewing. It just didn't happen, but the pillow's done. And now you don't have to hear me talk about that pillow anymore. It is just done. So I'm really pleased. I do have a couple of shout outs that I want to do because I got some really nice shout outs last week that I was not expecting. And so I just want to thank those ladies and point you in their direction if you're not already watching their channels, because honestly, they're hilarious. Both of them are. So the first person I want to mention is Esther, the Danish stitcher. And she is hilarious. And she just has like this dry sense of humor. And I die during her videos. But she also includes some interesting historical information about Danish samplers. And she is in Denmark, so she like goes to the library and like checks out all these books about Danish samplers and basically tells us all about Danish samplers, which is amazing. And she does beautiful stitching. I highly recommend her channel. Yeah, I've been really enjoying getting to know her, and she's so funny. She just has like this dry sense of humor. Cracks me up. Okay, so Esther, Danish stitcher. I'll put a link to her channel down below. Check her out. The other person I want to mention is the person who is kind of in charge of the Zoom meetup that I talked about when I talked about my red deer. And her name is Emily, Crafty Emily, and I'll link to her down below too. I'm sure I've mentioned her before. A couple weeks ago, I was walking my dog. I always get my best thoughts in, my best thinking in when I'm walking my dog. And I realized that cross-stitching is pixel art. And quilting is also pixel art. And what this means is that I could make a quilt out of a cross stitch pattern. And then I was thinking about it. I was thinking about doing my Harpy and Dragon, which is this guy. But I realized that if I did this as a quilt with 2.5-inch blocks, or 2-inch blocks, it would be 20 feet wide. So not doing that. But it really kind of made me think about doing a portion of this as a quilt. Anyway, I thought it'd be really fun. So I mentioned it in our Zoom meetup 2 weeks ago. And Emily was like, oh, I used to knit cross-stitch patterns. I bet I could knit a long dog sampler. And so she is knitting with color work a long dog sampler, and it looks amazing. And if you haven't watched her, you should watch her last video. I'll link to her channel down below where she shows the sampler. And I'm sure she's going to post a video tomorrow where she shows her knitted long dog sampler tomorrow. And I saw it today and it looks amazing. So thank you, Emily, and thank you, Esther, for giving me a shout out. I appreciate it very much. I've just really enjoyed both of you and both of your company and your senses of humor, and you are both delightful and have enriched my life tremendously. So thank you so much. And I also want to give a shout out to my mom, who always gives me a shout out, and I rarely reciprocate. My mom has a knitting podcast, and she podcasts once every sort of month and a half or so, but she has a daily vlog where she just kind of shares her morning with us. And my mom's also completely delightful. So I'll link to her down below too. And she shows her knitting. So she has a knitting podcast. And so she shows her knitting and cross stitching that she's doing. And now she's doing watercolor painting. So she's doing some really beautiful stuff. So I'll link to my mom down below too, because she also gave me a shout out last week, which was very nice of all of them. So thank you all, and check them out. I was going to have a brief segment called What's in the Box, because this isn't a box that I purchased, but I went through my storage and I found a craft box in my storage. But I may do a video of that and stick it at the end next week. But we'll leave that till next week because I think the storm is ramping up. I'm going to continue on with the giveaway winner. So last week I had all sorts of things to celebrate. The reason why I decided to do the giveaway is because I completed my first ever cross stitch that I'd ever done, which was this Harpy and Dragon pattern. And if you want to stitch this, you can find it in my Etsy shop that's down below. But I figured in celebration of me finishing this cross stitch, and because I apparently have no idea how to calculate how much floss I need, I had all this extra floss. I have 6 skeins. This is a 3-color pattern, and this is 6 skeins. And so I thought I'd do a giveaway. And then, after I made that decision, I hit over 400 subscribers, which is awesome. And then I found out that my promotion and tenure were approved for my job. And so it was just like all sorts of things to celebrate. So I am giving away the floss. So it's 6 skeins, 2 skeins of each color blue for the pattern. The Aida that I use, so this is a 14 count, just DMC oatmeal Aida that will fit the pattern with about an inch border. This is half of what I'm using. This is basically the other half of the fabric from my Red Deer pattern, which is the same size as the Harpy and Dragon. I'm going to give you the pattern and I'll print out a copy, and then I'll also email you a copy if you want an emailed copy. And then maybe some other goodies that I throw in, just that I have around. I did the random comment picker and I asked you to say Harpy. And the winner of this Harpy and Dragon bundle is Melanie Murphy. So Melanie, congratulations. I will comment on your comment in a couple days. I'll give you a couple days to like watch so you can like hear your name. I don't know. That feels exciting to me. If you're following me on Instagram, you can just message me on Instagram. Otherwise, my email address is down below and you can just shoot me an email with your information and we can kind of coordinate me sending you a little Happy Mail Stitchy package. And you said in your comment that this will be your first ever cross stitch, and that is so exciting. I hope that you really enjoy stitching it. I have to be honest, I love stitching it. It was my first cross stitch pattern too, and so that's awesome. I'm so excited that we get to share that together. So Melanie, congratulations, and I'm so glad to send this to you. I think I might save my haul for next week. If you remember last week, I mentioned, I had that amazing linen haul. But I said, oh, well, when they get like pinks and reds, I need to get those too. I feel like I'm heavy on the blues. They had pinks and reds and I got them, but I'll show you that next week. And then I also have, I just got today my March Stitchy box. So I will do an unboxing of that for my Tuesday video. So if you want to check out my Stitchy box Stash Delights box, that unboxing will be on Tuesday. As for plans, it's the end of the semester. I'm getting in 80 papers that I have to read and mark on Monday. Not sure how much stitching I'm going to get done. I would like to work on my Red Deer and my Hildegard, but other than that, I'm not making any promises. Oh, and on Sunday I'll work on my temperature library. But I think that's it. I do want to talk about one piece of haul that I got that I'm really excited about. I got a sewing stiletto kit, like craft kit from Penguin and Fish. And she is going to do a make along to make this sewing stiletto on Monday at 8:30 Central Time. So I'm really excited about that. And basically it is a tool that you use to, like, when you're sewing, help push the fabric through and like hold the fabric where you want it, without getting your finger stuck. So I'm pretty excited about that. And so that's very exciting. And I think she has more of them. This was a pre-order. I think she has more of them in stock. I'll put a link down below if she does over on Penguin and Fish. And I think that's it from me. So I'm going to get this edited and uploaded, and I will see you all on Tuesday for my Stitchy Box unboxing, Stitchy Box Stash Delights unboxing. I hope you have a wonderful week with lots of stitching and other crafting, whatever you want to do. And with all that being said, please take good care of yourselves and have a good one. Bye.